the Death Note live action was actually not that bad. Also, hey Soner, how's it going?
The Death Note live action came out in 2019, and everybody on mainland China made a video about why it's actually the worst thing to ever come out.
我在北京
But I think if you actually sit down and give it a decent chance, I think it's kind of okay. It's actually not that bad. I understand for a lot of people, Death Note was their first anime, it was their gateway anime, at least it was for me. It was one of the first things that got me into anime. I still remember just waiting for school to end that day so I can come home and finish the whole show. I think I finished it in about 2 days. So I understand it's going to be personal for a lot of people. You want it to be as good as possible. But I don't think it's as bad as everyone makes it out to be. I think if you just gave it sit down and watched it and give it a decent chance, it's a pretty okay movie. So I thought after 6-7 years after it's come out, we could just take a look at if it's good or if it's as bad as everyone says it is. The movie makes it immediately clear that it's not going to be set in Japan, it's going to be set in the US, right? Because it takes place in a high school in the US, right? So we do see that Light is doing someone else's homework, so he seems like a really smart, like a nerd, but not really in like, oh, everyone loves him because he's so smart, but more like, I'm just going to be doing everyone's homework kind of smart, right? And it's played by Nat Wolff, who didn't really have a career after Death Note. I know he shifted into music right now, but you know, not really a lot of movies. Mia, on the other hand, who is basically his love interest, was basically supposed to be Misa from the anime. She was played by Margaret Qualley, who, to be fair, had an extensive career. She, I think, played in one of Quentin Tarantino movies. What was that? Something about the Hollywood, right? And then she also was in The Substance. Also, she was in Death Stranding. How brave.
Welcome, Sam Porter Bridges.
Light picks up the Death Note, and after this, Light sees some bullies doing their bullying. And when he sees this, Mia comes in, she tries to confront the bullies about it. And when he sees that they're messing with Mia, Light does his thing, he immediately becomes a Reddit mod, and he jumps in to save the day. And then he just gets beat the fuck up. The bullies just actually beat him up. And then he gets like detention for doing everybody's homework, and you know, it's just in detention all by himself, just sleeping. And that's when he sees Ryuk for the first time. Even though he's not written a name yet, and it's just, you know, it's just in his hands for a while, I guess that's just how you see Ryuk in this movie, right? And you know what his reaction was? This was his reaction.
Oh shit, my butt! What the fuck?
Now, this is where I think the movie fully establishes that this Light is not the same as the Light from the anime, because this Light does this when he sees Ryuk, and the Light from the anime is a literal sociopath. He's just fully fucking, I think he even starts laughing, if I'm not wrong, when he actually looks at Ryuk, because he's like a full-on sociopath, right? And this Light is just your average American, I guess. I hope the mood is set right for the next segment, but after he confronts the bullies, he gets beat the fuck up, right? After getting beaten up by the bullies, he decides to write the bully's name in the Death Note, and then fucking kills him. I'm not gonna show it to you. It's very graphic. If you want, go look it up online, right? And after that, he comes back home to his father. Again, it's the same detective from the, I think, the anime. It's played by Shia, and he genuinely has a generational career after this. After Death Note, it seems like pretty much everybody's had a good career. But then, you know, if you had any doubts, we're introduced to Ryuk, and he is probably the best part of the whole movie. Played by Willem Dafoe, every scene he is in, he captures the whole scene. And they did make an animatronic for this before they tried to get a full 7-foot actor. Before that, they made an animatronic, but then they couldn't really control his emotions, so they decided just to go with your average, you know, a 7-foot tall guy. But you know, Ryuk is amazing in every scene that he's in. But the same thing cannot be said about everybody.
I'm over here stroking my dick. I got lotion on my dick right
And then we're introduced to Mia, and Mia introduced herself to Light.
I'm Mia.
And she asked Light what that book is all about, and he says, I really can't tell you.
What is it?
I can't tell you.
And then she's like, alright, and then she gets a bit upset, and he's like, but like, do you actually want to know what this is about though? And then, truly, he is a Reddit mod, right? He couldn't take that, rejection. He couldn't take that the girl was upset about something.
Okay.
Do you really want to know? You of all people are going to want to see this.
And then he's like, you out of everybody would really want to know what this is about. Like, you've known her for like 2 seconds, I think. This is the second time you're ever talking to this girl. You know more about Ryuk than you know about her. How do you know that she'd, want to know about this? And the weirdest part about it is she is more like Light from the anime than Light himself. She immediately absolves Light of killing somebody, then she just says, they actually deserve that. You actually saved somebody. You didn't kill someone, you actually saved somebody. And then she says the thing.
We could change the world.
But Light seems like a loser in the anime. I mean, they go out of their way to make him look like a loser.
Can I kiss you?
You're not supposed to ask.
And after a ton of kissing and killing and kissing and killing and kissing and killing, we're actually introduced to L, who I know as the horse guy from Sorry to Bother You. If you know that, you know. But to be fair, I think pretty much everybody except for Nat has had an amazing career in terms of movies after Death Note. Like, literally, he was in some of the best movies of all time. Same with Shia. Same with, the woman who played Mia. So pretty much everybody has had a good career except for Nat. But, we move on. And it seems like L from the movie can speak perfect Japanese. Truly a weeb moment.
Konnichiwa, Mini-san.
And then the Kira investigation starts. And you know what? I actually think I like L from the movie. I mean, he tries to copy the cadence of the original L, he tries to speak like him, and he tries to do everything like him. And if you haven't guessed already, he's kind of weird.
Would you mind singing a song for me?
Of course.
Peaches, 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 peaches.
And then L holds a press conference and he asks Kira, or in this case Light, to kill him. And when Light couldn't do that because of course he doesn't know L's name yet, he called Light a child who's wielding unimaginable powers in his hands, which Rustage shamelessly steals 2 years after the fact.
Child wielding power he does not understand.
You're not a god, you're a child with a kill list.
We're the good guys and they're trying to stop us.
Again, Mia is the perfect Light. Her, narcissistic tendencies, her sense of grandeur, make her closer to Light than this Light would ever come. So I think that just overall makes her an interesting character to follow, because now you know that she is somebody who is not like Misa from the anime. She gives off more of the Light vibes from the anime. L figures out that Light is Kira because Light doesn't kill his father after, he tells him to kill him, or just, even though his father's name is out there and space is out there, he never gets killed. So L figures out Light is Kira, and you know what he does? He meets him in a cafe with a lot of public inside, right? And then you know what he does? He does the most, intelligent 100 IQ Among Us meme that I've ever seen. He shows him his face. He just straight up just shows him his face. So now that Light has both his face, all he just needs to do is find out his name. He has Watari's name and face. So you know what he does? He just puts Watari, he just writes Watari's name in the Death Note and just asks him to just find L's name. That's all. That's all he had to do. And then we cut to prom, and I'm not even joking. This motherfucker is actually wearing a fucking fedora. This movie might just be a masterpiece, man. It's a full-on parody at this point. But actually, turns out this was a smart move by Light. He actually did this to confuse the FBI that was actually tailing him. He puts his hat on all the guy, and these FBI who've been doing this for, for 20, 30 years, just don't recognize that at all. They just think, oh, Light's just right there. whoever's wearing the hat is Light, right? That's just how it is. And he just sneaks into another room. He calls Watari to just know what L's name is. Watari's in another camp where in this movie L was like he was a successor. He was chosen successor at 6 who survived a harsh mental camp. So he has to go back and just find the name, but he just couldn't. Like he's going through all the sheets, all the notes. There's no way for him to find L's name. So one of the new rules in this Death Note is just before they die, you can make them do whatever you want, but also you can just burn the page and their life will be spared. So all you have to do is make somebody do what you want and then burn the page. But wouldn't because Watari's already spoken to Light so many times, wouldn't he exactly know who Light is, and wouldn't that just close the case? Because if he comes back, wouldn't he be able to just know the number, just trace his number back? If he was spared, right? That would just ruin Light, right? I don't know. Okay, but after that, turns out there's a bigger plot twist. Mia has torn the pages of the Death Note, so Light just couldn't do anything about it. And then you know what he says? He says to Watari, run away, get away from there because you're gonna die. And he's like, no, but I'm obsessed with finding the name of L. I need to find it because that's what he wrote when he wrote how Watari's gonna die, that he's gonna get obsessed with finding the real name of L. And then he's going through the notes, going through the sheets, and he finds it. He finds L's name in the movie. And do you want to know what it is? Do you actually want to know what it is? Now be honest now. If you do, I can tell you. Okay, drum roll please. It's Lebsenborn. LeBron? Even I don't know what the second part of the name is, but it's Lebsenborn something. So before he could tell this to Light though, he gets shot and he's fucking dead. Grand reveal, Mia was the sociopath all along. She has killed Watari now, and she's written Light's name in the book, and she confronts him and threatens him and tells him that if he doesn't officially hand over the book to her, he's gonna die, basically, because his name is already in the book. But the thing is, he has the book with his name in it, so he could just burn the pages, right? But I guess she just says if he does give the book back to her, she's gonna burn the page and Light's gonna be safe, right? After this, we find out, because she's a sociopath, she's killed Watari, and then L finds out that Watari is dead. So what does he do? He has an emotional outburst.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
After this outburst, he does pull out a gun, and which never happens in the anime, but then this is set in America. Love the guns, baby. But then, he runs after Light. He's trying to find him and kill him because he thinks Light actually killed Watari, right? And I understand in this film it seems like L is way more attached to Watari because ever since he was 6 years old he's been his keeper, so there's a lot of emotional connection there. But then he actually finds Light, and when he's about to kill him, some guy just fucking hits him, and that's it. After this, Light goes back to the Ferris wheel where he sees Mia again. She's still your freaky got GF, so there's no problem with that. They get on the Ferris wheel, they get on the whole thing, they go up. Turns out the whole thing is destroyed. One of them falls on the pier, one of them falls in the sea. Mia, I think, is straight up just dead, right? Because she falls on solid ground. But Light falls into the sea. Now he wakes up, actually in the hospital bed. And it turns out he actually planned the whole thing. What the hell? He had I think barely 2 minutes and he planned the whole thing. He writes everything down, and he of course embarrasses L because even when he was in a coma, the killings were still happening because Light already had written that down, that someone else was gonna be writing the names in the Death Note. But it's kind of weird because in the anime, if you write a name in the Death Note, you see Ryuk, but not really in this because even till the end, Mia never saw Ryuk. But it's all just a bit here and there. But now he wakes up. His dad has already found out that he was Kira all along. And then, you know what happens? The movie just ends. The movie just ends with Light waking up. That's it. There's a small bit about L, finding the Death Note, finding the page of where Watari's name was written, and thinking about maybe will he write Light's name in it, or because he's very intently looking at the photo frame, is he gonna write the name? But that's it. That's just how the movie ends. So Light planned it all along. When you thought Mia was smart, Light was actually smarter. That's the end of the movie. If you ask me, it's a pretty solid movie. If I'd never seen the original or never heard of the original Death Note or anything like that, I think this would have easily been even like a 7 or even an 8, right? But because the original is so good and so popular, I think it's almost at 9 out of 10 on IMDb and 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. You were always gonna get backlash because people love the original and they expect the live action also to be at that level, right? And there's only two things that they could have done to completely avoid this. One would have been to follow the story beat to beat. But because the movie is set in America, that's not exactly something that you can do. Because, of course, different judicial systems will have different reactions to different crimes, different kind of people will have different kind of reactions to different kind of crimes, and different teenagers from different countries are going to act different, right? So you can never predict how the general audience would react to a crime. But then there's also a lot of, I feel like, especially being a vigilante in America is a lot more accepted. Think about any of your favorite superheroes, right? Batman, Superman. Okay, Superman is, he's kind of vigilante. But then, vigilante, but, Dexter. They're all not really law enforcement except for Dexter, but then he's not following the law, but you know what I mean. Like, they're not really law enforcement, they're just ordinary people going after the bad guys. So I think Light would be way more accepted in America than in Japan, right? I'm not 100% sure about if there are vigilantes from Japan, but then you also have, I don't think you have vigilantes, right, from Japan, any famous ones? I don't know, I'm not really particularly sure. There might be a lot. If you do know some of them, leave them in the comments. But because of these different reactions, just having the whole movie following beat to beat just wouldn't work. So the best option would be the second option. But then even if you were to set the whole thing in America, you have to bring in a lot more cultural nuance to the whole thing. But then you're still sticking with how the initial people reacted. His name is still Kira, and it's still from the Japanese word. But then they put out, oh yeah, it also means light in fucking Latin or whatever. I don't remember. But you know what I mean? You're still, if you want to follow the story beat to beat, you have to follow the story beat to beat, because why was Mia in it if you're trying to go so close to it? So following the story beat to beat just wouldn't work. Two would have been to probably set the whole thing in a new universe, or just have new characters, right? Keep the Death Note, keep Ryuk. They were the most interesting part of the movie. They were one of the most interesting part of the anime, and they were also done well. So keep both of them, and again, you can't have a Death Note movie without the Death Note, so you have to keep both of them in. But maybe just get in a whole new cast of characters. It doesn't have to be Light, it doesn't have to be L. Just like how they did with Mia, right? They brought in a new character who is very interesting, who's somewhat like Light in the anime, but not really the exact same. So you're still giving people the newer characters that they want, but also you're not blockading them as the original anime characters, right? Just giving them the name that they already have, like Light or L. Obviously, you're gonna hurt a lot of the anime fans who love the anime, right? Because when they see Light, they see a psychopath with a god complex who wants to rule the world, basically, and not a simp who's just killing for the ladies, right? Or when they see L, they see like a calm, they see like a mysterious detective who's very smart and who'll never, act out of instincts. He'll think about everything, and not just an emotional mess, right? Just having these characters just in there who have been, favorites for the anime viewers for so long, you are obviously going to create a lot of conflict between them and the new viewers. So if we just set up the whole thing in a new universe, it would have been so much better. It didn't even have to be like a same kid picking it up. It could have been maybe somebody in the police department, who got it and who thought about it, and he started killing somebody. Or then you had another detective who had to find him, and then he obviously was, because he's in the police department, he's also pretty smart, so he was escaping. So basically like Infernal Affairs type of situation, right, where it's just back and forth. Or it could even be like somebody in the mafia found it, like in this case Yakuza found it, and they are using it. And how could they change it, because they're obviously Light is, we've seen in the movie also, we've seen that there are previous people who attempted to write Ryuk's name in the book, I know it's to flesh out the character, to just make sure that he's been here for a long time, but again, he has been here for a long time. We could have easily made an entirely new story just showing how this would work. And I get it, it's Hollywood. You're never gonna get a perfect live action, but maybe just putting in these newer characters, we could have had. Okay, of course we would not have had the One Piece level, of live action, because I think this came out in 2017, 2019, and One Piece live action came out 2023. So we were like 5-6 years, still far away from getting one of the best live actions out there. But like I said, on a whole, this is not a bad movie at all. It understands what it's doing. There are obviously some few shortcomings that they try to override, like Ryuk, for example. It was first supposed to be animatronic, but then the facial expressions never sat right, so they just deleted the whole thing and then just got a new actor. So they weren't rushing the process, but it could have been better. So it's on the stage where it's at if you take the anime, the movie, and everything into consideration, it's at probably, I think, a 4 or a 5. And if we could get a few more tweaks, it could have easily ended up in like 8. That's what I think. Because just having these original characters in the story, I think, is the bigger problem at the end of the day. If we just had maybe a new L who was... we know that there's A to L at least, right? Maybe it was not even L. Maybe it was B. or do you remember this one? It was E, But like... you never know, like, it could have been someone else. That's what I mean. There is a lot, that's why, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. It is a pretty enjoyable movie. There are a few inconsistencies, yes, but in the end, everything just ties up together really well, so it's never like a super bad movie, but then you're obviously this was one of the biggest IPs ever in terms of anime, so you're obviously going to have the normies, you're going to have the hardcore, dedicated anime fans who are going to be coming to this just to hate. So you were never going to satisfy everybody, but I think a fair attempt could have been made at just having a better, written story about a newer batch of characters. Like, they did try to do it with Mia, so if you could do it with like a bunch of other characters, I think that could have been where we could have settled. And we also have to remember that anime wasn't as popular back in 2017, 2019. This is before COVID, so it wasn't as popular as it is now. Now, pretty much everyone is into anime, but back then, it was just a few people, right? So I think there was a genuinely fair attempt that was made to get this in front of a lot of people, get it in front of people who've never watched anime, just to make it more consumable. Maybe I don't know the ratio, but there might have been a lot of people who watched the Death Note movie, probably got into the anime and just got into anime overall, right? So there was an effort made, and it could have been a better effort, obviously, but I think it's not as bad as people make it out to be. That's it. That's why I said the Death Note movie is actually not that bad. At least it's not the Dragon Ball live action, right? Which, in my opinion, again, was really bad. I'm not going to defend that one, okay? Alright, okay. See you then. Bye-bye.